No, I don't.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Master Books. I am here today with my favorite author. I can say that. So this is my wife, Kristen, who is also the author of Language Lessons for a Living Education, the series. So we're going to talk about Language Lessons for a Living Education 5, which is brand new, shipping now. We're going to talk a little bit about the series. We're going to talk a little bit about what's coming with Level 6, Level 1, the companion guide, the encyclopedia, the junior high levels, all of those things.
Yeah, that's not happening.
and then kind of an update on Kristen's personal journey. So let me ask first about language lessons as a series.
Okay.
What is the heart behind the series?
Well, if you
sum it up in an elevator pitch.
strip it all away, basically, we have 9 children. We've graduated 5 so far. And when, we began our homeschool journey, I looked at a lot of different curriculum. We tried a lot of different curriculum. And I was always dissatisfied with writing and grammar courses. And so we led homeschool groups. We also had our own business selling homeschool curriculum. And so I was frequently asked, what language arts program do you recommend? And anytime I recommended one, I would always have a caveat, but, I never had one that I just really, really loved that, marked all the boxes for me. And so when I ended up with the task of writing a language arts program for Master Books, I decided to do what I wanted for my own children. And so that's what the heart really is behind this is a language lessons that I always wanted for my children.
It's a hybrid of what we've seen work over the years.
Yes.
Really.
Yes.
I mean, it's not just you did your own thing. You actually found pieces that this worked really well,
right,
but it doesn't work in a homeschool situation, or ideally
right.
This does, but it also gives you the flexibility to, like, if you don't want to do a picture study.
Right, you don't have to. So what I put into this course is I wanted lessons that weren't going to take hours and were not going to bring my children to tears having to write. And so many programs, my kids would start off eager and then they'd end up in tears by the time they got through all their grammar instruction or these great big writing projects that they had to do from a real young age. Mm-hmm. Now there are some kids, they're just superstars and they just jump in and they can just write away. They've got the stamina, they've got it all, the interest, they've got it all going. But my kids were not that. And it's not that they couldn't become good writers, it's that they were overwhelmed way too quickly. Mm-hmm. And so my goal is to teach them grammar in the context of actual writing. So a lot of the lessons, they'll have to do some writing, applying what they've learned. But it's also set up so that they build gradually into writing. And we spend a lot of time after we figure out sentences and basic structures, we spend a lot of time writing paragraphs. So a lot of the levels, you're going to be just honing your paragraph writing skills, because until you have that down, you can't write longer essays.
Right.
And so that's a big issue that I had with a lot of programs is my kids were expected to write these essays, but their paragraph structures were still not fine-tuned. Mm-hmm. And until you fine-tune that paragraph, it doesn't matter what they're writing. It's not going to be written well. And I want my children to write well. And so by just spending more time focusing in on those paragraphs, once you have a paragraph, it's easy to teach more structured writing, to create essays and things like that. Then it's just a matter of plugging in the mechanics of, mm-hmm. Do this, this, and this. But if they don't have that paragraph writing skill down pat, you're just frustrating them. And not only that, they're going to see a whole page full of your notes where they need to make changes. Where if they had that understanding of a paragraph, they're going to write really good essays. And so we focus in on that. Now, if your kid is a superstar, you can let them write more than one paragraph.
Right.
But the majority of kids, they are required to write longer essays before they ever have the paragraph down. And not only just writing a length of a paragraph and the structure of a paragraph, but making it interesting with using adjectives and adverbs and making their writing come alive. And so I want to really hone in on those skills before we get into writing papers. And so writing papers, there's plenty of time to learn how to do that. Mm-hmm. But in levels up to level 6, that's where we're really focusing in on, is to make really good writers and for them to enjoy the process and not end up in tears.
Yeah. Well, I struggled through 12 excruciating years of grammar. Diagramming sentences, nouns, verbs, direct object, indirect objects, all the other blah, blah, blahs. And I learned to write papers actually in one semester in college. So I 100% agree with you. Kristen and I went to school together. We went to a private school together. And Kristen graduated early. She was actually the grammar queen. And I was probably not the grammar king. Right?
Yeah.
And in many ways, I would even say that my ego is probably threatened because I was a year older than Kristen, and Kristen was like 2 grades ahead of me. The school we were in was independent learning, so you could go as fast as you wanted to. Kristen was like accelerated. She graduated a year early. We went to college together, which was a blessing for me. But if somebody had said to me, you know what, the girl you're sitting next to in 35 years is going to write a language curriculum, you know what I would have said? Of course she is. Okay. Add that to a resume. Actually, I'm delighted because we have seen so many programs come and go and people be frustrated. Right. And the reality of homeschooling, if you love this, pick your own approach. But for the reality of a lot of the people we've worked with over the years, the curriculums just were bad fits and their families were frustrated and they wanted to give up.
Right.
I've said before, the husband comes home, the wife is locked in the closet, and he thinks we need to send the kids back to school to fix it when he really just needs to fork out another $40 and buy the right curriculum. Okay, level 5.
Yes.
Give us some light. What is coming out of 2, 3, 4, level 5? What's the heart of this? What's the background of that?
Okay, level 5 kind of jumps up a little bit in a couple of areas. It jumps up in the spelling. Rules are introduced, and so I didn't go real heavy with the rules for the younger grades because they're learning so much. They've got so much coming at them. Memorizing a lot of rules just doesn't make sense to me. And so I get there's some kids that really struggle, and we do give some rules for those kids before this level, but there's a lot of kids that spelling just comes easy to. If you have a kid that just spells and they're fantastic at it, you're really blessed with that. Some kids just struggle with spelling, and they're going to need a lot of extra work in that area. Mm-hmm. And so what I recommend for those kids is you do a lot of the activities that are in the back of the book. You focus on it when they're writing. One of the methods that I found with my son that because we have a mixture at home right now as far as their spelling skills go, and one of them really struggles. And the best thing is when he comes up to a word that he doesn't know how to spell, I have him ask me. And so he's constantly asking me, Mom, how do you spell such and such? And then I tell him, and then he writes it down. And so what I've tried to do with him is when he was younger, I would give just a couple of letters at a time when I was spelling the word. So if we're spelling, I don't know, can't think, if we're spelling lessons, if he doesn't know how to spell that word, I would say LE. S-S-O-N-S. And so what I've done is I've gradually added more letters as I'm spelling it for him. So now if you were to ask me how to spell lessons, I might say Lessons. And so he is going to start off seeing less and then ONS. And so I'm gradually working him up to where, I'll start spelling the whole word for him. But breaking it up into chunks like that sometimes can help the kids. And that's been the biggest thing that's actually helped with my son learning how to spell. Mm-hmm. That's just a little bit of tips and tricks if you need more spelling than what's in the language lessons. Because this is the difficulty. So we have kids that need lots more repetition and they need to do a little bit more to completely grasp a concept. But for the kid who gets it the first time, we don't want to bring them to tears and hate learning because they've had to do tons and tons and tons of repetition and they got it in the first 3 things that they did. That's why I offer so much in the back of the book. It's also why I really encourage you, as part of the reason, to let them use the grammar study sheets. It's why there's all the games in the back, because even a kid who struggles, if you just give them pages and pages and pages of more of the same, they're just gonna get tired. But if you can have them do their basic lessons and then add in games and they can see it in a different way, a lot of times it will click with those students.
Right.
And so rather than make everybody suffer, let's do a doable amount in a day, and then we can add fun stuff to it for the areas that they need to just kind of shore up.
Okay. So day 1, they focus on short story, special feature, picture study, poem or proverb. That's just connecting parts of the brain.
Yes, and I didn't finish answering your questions.
Okay, finish answering.
So the spelling, I was trying to think, there's something else I was going to say. The spelling was more in depth, but the spelling goes up. They dive into a lot more rules. And there's a lot more writing. And so there's a lot more opportunities for paragraph writing, not just 1 or 2 sentences. And the number of sentences that they're going to write in any one lesson is increased.
Okay. So by now they should have stamina build up. They should have the basic skills.
Right.
Now they're actually starting to build it up and produce.
Right. And produce there. So there's more opportunities for them to write about a paragraph worth of material. They're going to work on their book reports, those type of things.
Okay. So day 2s and 3.
Right. Just like the other, it follows the same pattern where they're going to focus on their grammar and their writing skills. They're going to, again, use it's the last level of using this book.
Okay.
And then
that's
spelling.
day 4, and then spelling.
Spelling
now,
day
spelling
5.
On day 5, some people will give those words in practice like on a Monday.
Yes.
So that they have it through the week. Mm-hmm. The day that you focus on spelling is the 5th day.
It's the 5th day. It's all there on the 5th day. There's extras available in the back of the book. And we found that a lot of people do it different. Some of them will give their kids the list on Friday, and they work on them all the next week. Some will give them on Monday, and then they finish up on Friday. And some of them, like my son who's doing language lessons 4 right now, he's really good at spelling. So I just have him do the spelling on that Friday, and that's all we do.
Somebody asked the age of our kids. Our kids are 29.
Yeah, down to 9.
To 9. Yeah, he gets mad when I say he's 10. So
yeah, he'll be 10.
Yeah,
this summer.
He doesn't want to be 10.
So yeah, our kids at home, we have a just completed 9th grade. We have a son who is special needs. He's adopted and he has fetal alcohol syndrome. So he's running about 5th, 6th grade, but he should be going into 9th grade. But he's not. And then it's a homeschool family thinking of 5th grade. He just finished 5th grade. Yep. No, he's finished 6th grade.
What did he?
Gabriel.
Yeah, I have no idea.
It's terrible. I think he just finished 6th grade. It's terrible. Here I am. But that's it, because I just use what works, not necessarily what's on grade level.
We need to edit that out. We don't know our kids.
Yeah, we don't know. My other son is just finishing 4th grade, but because we started the language lessons 4 so late because we didn't get it out on time, he's gonna carry. He's only partially through language lessons 4, and we'll continue it next year.
Yeah,
Partway through.
In some ways, because it's a hybrid of what we've used over the years, it's not a really big change because it's kind of the accumulation. So,
Right.
Okay, and then so let's talk a little bit about the concept of rigorous. You and I both have opinions about this. The criticism that comes is compared to some curriculums, they'll say, well, it's not as rigorous as these curriculums. Now we're talking elementary students.
Yes. If you are looking for pages and pages of repetition, and that's what a lot of programs offer, if that's what rigorous means, this isn't for you. If it means them actually learning according to age appropriate and they're gaining skills and understanding of the subject matter, and they're developing a desire to do more than what they're actually required, that to me means they're actually learning. If they can apply what they've learned, if that's what your goal is, then this is rigorous. So it depends on what you view as rigorous. I don't need my kids to be in tears to know that the program is rigorous. I need to know that they're actually learning, because my experience is if a child is shutting down, I don't care what the program is, I don't care how good it is, they're done. They're not going to learn anymore. If it's just memorizing enough to pass a test, and I've had kids that were really good with that too, they could do a rigorous program, they could pass the test, and they walked away, it's gone. They couldn't tell you a thing about it a week later,
right,
because they memorized enough to pass the test. If that's the kind of rigor that you want, and that's fine. If that's what people are looking for, a real test-heavy, test-driven program, that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for actual an education that's going to stick with them, that's going to want them to continue to write on their own. It doesn't matter what the topic is, whether you're talking math, English, science, history. I want not necessarily every little fact and figure to be in their brains that they can regurgitate at any time. I want them to be lifelong learners. And so that's my goal with language lessons. I want to develop an enjoyment of writing. I want it to be personal to them. And I want them to be able to take it and apply it to every subject in their writing. And so that's a different kind of rigorous.
So one of the things that you just focused on was the student, but I've over the years seen a lot of rigor. Two people have to accept rigor, right? So one has to be the student, the other is the parent. And we've seen families who have 5 kids, and the mom gets at the table at 5 in the morning, and she's there until 5 o'clock at night trying to teach all of these courses to the students, right, and then enforce the student through it. And then usually dad has to discipline at night because there's meltdowns and everything. We never had that luxury. We were building a business and pastoring a church and raising a lot of kids. And we needed a solution that would get it done as quickly as possible and as effectively as possible. Also, when you have a family of 9 kids, it has to be affordable. Every tax season, our taxes went to buy curriculum.
Right.
And so from those standpoints, it's not just doable for the kids, but it's also very easy for the mom to administer this, because ultimately at this level, you're basically, would you say, independent? Oh,
absolutely. Yeah. Gabriel will be doing this one, even though he's going into 7th grade. He did, we're kind of bouncing around a little bit because he did the Bible grammar course this year, but there's enough meat in this that I feel like he will get a lot out of it. and he's my kid that struggles with spelling. And so the spelling will be really good for him to learn the different rules and to kind of, he's at a point now where he's ready for that. And so to dive into this year, I think is going to be a really good thing for him. And I will be able to hand this, but even if he was in 5th grade, I would be able to just hand this to him and he should be able to go with most of it. How our homeschool works is I work from home, except when I'm here. I come in for meetings, but I have my desk in the schoolroom. And so what they do is when they need help with something, they just bring it to my desk and then I go over it with them. And so I like independent because I don't really enjoy teaching I don't like teaching. I just don't like teaching. I enjoy helping them when they get stuck on things, but I don't like the bulk of having to walk them through every step of the way in their courses. Yeah. So the faster I can get them independent, the better. But that's for me personally. I realize not everybody's like that.
So the series has book 2, 3, 4, 5. You're working on 6.
Yes.
And we're a few weeks to completion where your part is done probably.
Yeah, I have a chemo treatment tomorrow. So if it wasn't for the chemo treatment, I could have it probably done by the end of the week. But because that's in there, I'm not going to be able to get the written part of it done. I mean, right. It's weeks out before they'll finish it here and have anything available.
Do proofing and everything. Yeah.
Right.
We should be, I think, ahead of schedule on 6.
Yes.
All things considered, it's week to week, but you're at the place where it should be handed off pretty quick. And I think we were like October, and I think it'll probably be sooner than October.
It probably will be sooner.
And then level 1 will come right after that.
Yeah, I had originally thought probably we had said winter, and I'm thinking, well, maybe spring. But that was before I realized what happened was chemo started as this was it had been designed, and then it had gone to the design process. It was at the very last. I didn't actually get a chance to even go through it and do a thorough proofing of it like I usually do with the language lessons because of the chemo. So it went to print. While it was in design, I had actually laid out a lot of the process, a lot of level 6. And so when I started doing estimates of when I was going to get things done, I was in the midst of chemo and I had forgotten all the work I'd actually done to get level 6 to where it needed to be. Yeah. So when I jumped back into 6, what I found out is it's going a lot quicker than what I anticipated. Really, only the chemo is what's causing delays with it, not the actual work.
Because you had a lot done.
Right. Yeah. And then yesterday, Tim sent me a little bit of a kicker, and we have to get language lessons 1 done on a quicker time scale because we're running out of one of the books. And so that's going to get done quicker. And because the level 6 is getting done quicker, I'm hoping to have that done really quick. So all that to say that by the end of this calendar year, and this is brand new information, we should have levels 6 and 1 shipping.
And for right now, that's what you've committed to.
Yes.
Is 1 through 6, possibly a companion guide.
Yes, we are planning a teaching companion. And then that's what I've committed to. I know everybody wants me to do a 7 and 8. We'll see.
Take it one day at a time.
Yeah, one day at a time.
But it is being designed so that a student could transition into the Writing Strands program. The recommendation is that they would take the placement test.
Yes. So when you get to the 5th grade level, you basically have a choice. You can stay with language lessons or you can go into Writing Strands. You have a choice to make. While I'm trying to introduce things like mainly writing from viewpoints. That's one of the things that I'm introducing with the kids through language lessons to help them transition a little bit into Writing Strands. They are 2 completely different programs. And what I recommend is you treat it like you're going from one curriculum into another. So let's say you're going from Abeka into BJU. You are going to see where your child places when you make that transition from a Becca into BJU by taking their placement test. I recommend you view it the same way when you're going from language lessons into writing strands. Make sure you check into the placement guides, because that's even if you take two kids and they go through the same exact program, they're still going to land at a different level and have different strengths and weaknesses. And so when you're going from one program like language lessons into writing strands, then you have to evaluate where that student actually is. Yep. And so they're just totally different programs. And so there's not this seamless going from one into another. You really need to treat it like it's a different program.
Yeah.
And evaluate placement.
One of the things that I love about the series is, and I would love to encourage anybody who's using language lessons for a living education, is to look for those moments when a spark happens, because so many curriculums are so focused on like, we're going to learn to write a format essay, right? 5 paragraphs, but they don't offer other opportunities. And I love that students are writing a poem, or they wrote a psalm, or they're doing something creative, and all of a sudden you begin to see the creativity like ignite something in the student.
Yes.
When that moment happens, run with it, because that could be the gift, right, that your kid has, that just gives them a special interest in education.
Right. And that's why I also give a lot of variety of prompts. So, like you said, sometimes they're going to write a poem, sometimes they're going to write a psalm, sometimes they're going to study a picture and use that as a starting point. Sometimes they're going to write a beginning, a middle, and an end, because some kids kind of struggle with seeing the whole. So breaking it down into steps like that. Sometimes they're just going to be given a topic that relates, like, write about a sport that you enjoy, or an activity that you enjoy, something that's personal to them. So there's all different ways throughout this that engages the student. If you find there's a way that's just not engaging your student, then what I would suggest you do is create a different way. Either tweak the one that's in there or come up with something completely different, because the goal is not to do things exactly the way language lessons for a living education tells you to do it with your student. The goal is to engage your student. Yeah. Now you have to use wisdom with that, because sometimes it's good for a kid just to be stretched a little bit, and you have to know, is my kid just being stretched, or is this a case where this isn't connecting and I need to do something different? Right. And so if there's, certain types, then I encourage you to say, if there's certain types that just doesn't work with your student, change it. Yeah. Yeah.
This is a tool. You're the carpenter. You use the tool. Don't be used by the tool. Right. When I was in school, I wasn't a model student, and my teacher didn't like me and I didn't like her. We had a mutual understanding. And we visited a nursing home, and while we were there, an old man played a harmonica, and I came back to my desk and I wrote a paper called The End of an Era, where I just talked about this man's passing. And she came up to my desk and said, I read your paper and you have a gift. And even though we don't like each other, you do have a gift here, and it's something to be explored. That little seed that was planted became so valuable. And there's 2 or 3 times that somebody just kind of recognized that spark. Yes. And spoke into my life and said, you're a communicator. You're good at this. You actually have a gift. Yep. And kids bite into that, right? Yeah. Because we all want to belong. That's like built into us. I want to know who I am and why I'm here. And when we start to give our kids little seeds and little paths that help them discover that, man, they'll go so much farther than we could drag them.
Yes. And when you find that there's a certain activity that just really piqued their interest and they did a fantastic job, really make a deal about that.
Yeah. Yeah. My son is learning to play bass guitar right now, and he has natural skill. And we sat down and played, and his sister plays drums, so we all got together last night, and she said to him, "Man, you got like natural skill." And you could just see in his brain, he's going to try twice as hard. He's going to learn more than what I could ever force him to learn.
Right.
Because he wants that. It's like we rewarded the behavior we wanted, but at the same time, it's truthful. We're not just making it up.
And on the flip side, there's going to be stuff that our kids encounter that's not their skill. So
have them marry somebody who has that skill, and they'll go much farther.
Well, maybe. I don't know. But that wasn't my answer. So one of the, with those who have used it before, that one of the activities is to, and of course I open it up to one of the pages. It's not. So the student is going to sketch one of the, everything's backwards. They're going to sketch the picture that's from their reading, and they're all different. Some of them are real detailed, and some of them, aren't so much. And so you have kids that they'll spend all day drawing that picture if you let them, and they'll do an exact duplicate of it, and it's amazing. And then you have kids that it's barely recognizable what they were actually drawing. Right. And those kids tend to not enjoy that particular activity. So you have a choice. Your student. Are you going to just not do that activity? And that sometimes is the right choice. With I have two sons right now that are homeschooling that do not have an artistic gift, and two that do. Well, the two that do not have the artistic gift, I've been working with them to encourage them, because I do not have an artistic gift either. I'm very crafty, but not artsy. And so we've had a lot of talks about, what? Sometimes we have to do things that we're not really good at. And just because we're not good at something doesn't mean we can't improve. And so my one son, who's actually doing the language lessons, when, it came to sketching, I let him focus just on one part. So one person or an animal or something within the picture that catches his eye. And honestly, sometimes he just looks at the easiest thing. That's probably what he does most of the time. And that's fine.
Draws the stick.
Yeah, I don't mind if he focuses in on one component of it and works to draw. And at first he was not really thrilled over having to do it, but I encouraged him and to just do a part of it. You don't have to spend all day. It doesn't have to look perfect. It doesn't have to look a thing like what the picture shows it, but just do your best. And over the course of the year, he's improved, and he's proud of those improvements, and I'm proud of those improvements. And so he feels good about it. I've encouraged my older son to take some art courses as well, even though he's as bad as I am at it. And he also has seen improvements. Now, improvements does not mean you can still recognize anything that they're drawing, but it's improved and they can see it, and it encourages them to do things that aren't necessarily what they're gifted at. Right. And not be afraid to step out and do those things. Right. And that they can improve. They may never be an artist, but they're gaining skill. And that's what I care about, is that they gain skill, and they learn how to step into something that's hard that they can't master like somebody else. Because there's always going to be those things that somebody's going to be able to do better at than they can. And it's a life skill to learn how to do those things. And
this really has more of a whole brain approach in developing creativity. Yes. Some of those things, you're not just learning how to sit and write 5 paragraphs, but you're also learning the skills of creative thinking, yes, of descriptive language, yes, all these things that we think are so important in the future for our kids to be able to communicate effectively.
Right. And the picture study is in here not because it's a popular Charlotte Mason type activity. I take a whole different approach than what Charlotte Mason would have. The reason that it's in a language lessons program, like what does picture study have to do with language arts? Well, it's a brain activity. What it's doing is it's planting in the brain all these different images, attention to detail. You're putting things in the brain that when they go to write about something, that will get triggered. A color, some little detail that they can describe in their writing. Those things are being planted in the mind. And so it's giving them not only topics that maybe they could explore in their writing, but it's planting a lot of visual things that they can actually just describe in their writing. Now, we're not telling them that's what we're doing, but that's actually the purpose of having those types of things in this language lessons.
Yeah, sometimes we'll see comments where somebody will be like, well, I think this is stupid because it's not part of a language. We're learning language. We're not learning how to do this, so I don't do that. And we encourage everybody to make the curriculum yours. That's always our mantra.
Right.
No one size fits all, and everybody's blessed. But there is some method in the madness. It's not just filler pages. It wasn't just, we need 5 lessons, so let's throw in a dot to dot. Here, there's some purpose in what we're doing to accomplish more of that, engaging the whole brain into the process and developing skills and laying foundations. So, well, okay. So, after book 2, I think, came out, book 2 and 3, maybe, earlier this year, Kristen was diagnosed with breast cancer. And we've talked a little bit. We had a video that we did when we were actually out at the Grand Canyon about seasons. But just one thing I'd like to mention about this course and a lot of the courses with Master Books is this isn't the first season, first time we're going through cancer.
Yeah.
Anything that severe, but we've had seasons of life. And what's really important, Kristen is a curriculum development editor here. And one of the things that's really important is a curriculum that can survive the seasons.
Yes.
Not just when everything is perfect and the world is wonderful, but also the times when you're nursing babies, running businesses, dealing with marital issues and family issues and all of these things. And you still have to maintain some sense of moving forward.
Right.
So independent learning, being able to hand it to the student and say, look at what needs to be done today. Making it as easy as possible for mom. So if you don't, usually Kristen is able to plan out the school year in great detail.
Right.
Even if she couldn't this year, which I think you still have a lot in place, but even if you couldn't in great detail, you can still open the book. In fact, the kids are doing, in the beginning of each book is the daily schedule, the daily lesson plan.
There it is.
See,
there you go. Yep.
Tells you what to do week 1, day 1, week 2, day 2. Now for us right now, especially, there may be a week that we went to the Grand Canyon. So you just pause. And when you come back, you just jump right back in where you left off.
Right.
You could date it if you wanted to. You don't have to.
Right.
But even in this season for us, the curriculum is very adaptable to the season that we're going through.
Yes.
But because we're doing like Master Book Science, it was really fun to go to the Grand Canyon and have that experience on top of what they're learning.
Yes.
As well. So you can, when you can thicken it up and build on it and have fun with it, it's fantastic. When you need just the basics, it scales down to just the basics as well.
Yeah, and that's part of the whole Master Books way of looking at things with curriculum is we want to give enough room for families to be able to dive in deeper and take pauses, because what I found in the rigorous programs is there's not enough time. You're so exhausted by the time you get through your curriculum for the day. Nobody wants to touch on anything remotely related. Even if it's a fun topic, you're pretty well worn out and done with it. And so we want to give an eagerness to dive deeper and then provide that little bit of cushion so that they can dive deeper. And so, we do it in different ways in different curriculums. Sometimes at the end of a lesson, there'll be ideas on how to do a special project, or, ideas on things to jump into for special learning activities like research and things like that. And then in the case of language lessons, there's the whole back of the book that has all sorts of stuff, from games to more copy work to, anything that you need that you want to take further, you can.
Picking it up.
Yeah. Language lesson 6 is going to have, which is a first, we don't have it in 5, but language lesson 6 is going to have additional writing options that you can assign to your student. And so we want to give you ideas to use, but not make it so that if you don't do those things, you're missing out, or you're not completing the program.
Right.
Because not every kid is going to want to go deeper on every topic. And then there's life happens. And so there are seasons that you can go deeper, and then there's seasons that you can't. And so we have everything there available, but you get to pick and choose. And if you decide not to do any of the extras, your kid's still getting a solid education.
Mm-hmm.
They just have more time to build Legos.
Right. Which is still part of education.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the flexibility standpoint of the system in this curriculum fits it well, in that it was designed for real world homeschooling.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just what we've seen over the years.
And real kids
And real moms.
Yeah.
We used to pick, because when we started homeschooling, it was a lot more homesteady. Is that a word? Homesteadier? Something. But it was a lot more denim jeans. It's okay if you wear a skirt still, that's a denim skirt. White sneakers, bake your own bread. Denim jumper. Yeah, that's what not denim jeans. Denim jumpers. And we've noticed over the years the shift in that. But there was one company in particular that would be like, well, homeschoolers should be the bake your own bread crowd. And, if you don't bake your own bread, you don't love your family. And we were kind of like, yeah, but there's days I just need to run to the store, grab a loaf of bread, and feed my kids, because they're not going to eat if I don't do that. And
this is the best of both worlds.
Yes. Yeah. You have the ability to adapt it and build on it. Mm-hmm. But you also have the ability to, when you need to, just grab it off the shelf and feed.
Yep.
So, it's exciting to be able to offer the homeschool community solutions that we know will work. So, okay. So I'm going to wrap up, but as I do, so you were diagnosed with breast cancer.
Yep.
Part of that treatment was chemotherapy.
Mm-hmm.
It's every 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. And so you have one tomorrow, mm-hmm. and that'll be number 4. And I know a lot of people in this group are praying for you, which I truly believe the Lord is answering prayers, mm-hmm. even though sometimes we have to journey differently than what we would like to. The care, the doctors, the care, all of that has been phenomenal. Mm-hmm. And but now, like next week that's a hard week.
Yep.
And then she'll start to come back out just in time for the next one. So we definitely appreciate all the prayers that you give. And
there's a bunch of other moms that are dealing with cancer too in the group.
I know.
It's heartbreaking.
It is. And we're praying for you. Mm-hmm. And we just know that the way life works, we've pastored and been part of ministry. We've been part of the homeschool community for over 20 years. We know that almost every family is in need of just intercession and prayer. Your kids, we're endeavoring in a battle to preserve our kids through
And that's one of the things too is built throughout language lessons, is to nurture not just knowledge about God, but a relationship with him.
Yes. And so all of your families are in our prayer, as well, because we just know that you're fighting battles. We don't know the nature of the battles, but just being a homeschool family means you've got battles to fight. So I appreciate you joining me. It was a sacrifice. I appreciate it. So are you happy to be here with me today? You know, say anything like this is your moment to say, I'm really happy to be here and spend time with you too.
Yeah, it's not exactly quality time. We're talking about language lessons. So
well, I'm pretty happy with language lessons.
I'm very happy with it too, but it's not exactly quality husband-wife time. It's an interview.
True. In fact, I could be very jealous of these because they've consumed a lot of you.
Yeah, they have.
So
yeah, and that's why before I even think about 7 and 8, I need a pause. There was something I wanted to mention about these, but I'm not finding it good. We took a little bit of a U.S. history kind of approach with this particular lesson, and so a lot of the poems and the major poem study and the major picture study I used American history texts, whether it be
so that would integrate
visual.
really well into America's story in those grade levels.
Yeah, it would.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Yep. So, and it still has the biblical based ones too. Just I actually did a theme on this one. There was one particular page I'm looking for, but I'm not finding it. So there is that theme. I didn't do the other ones necessarily with themes, but this one has a theme, just a little.
And then 6 is actually going to use the 10-minute Bible journey.
Yes. We are losing the rights, or we've lost the rights to be able to print the Bible book that goes with the Bible grammar course. And so what I'm doing is I'm salvaging, because I wrote that one too. So I'm salvaging as much content from the Bible grammar course to use in language lesson 6 as possible. Right. But we are losing that book. This language lessons 5 is the last one that the stories are in about Micah.
Okay.
And I've forgotten. That's the chemo part.
I don't think that people talk about crying in your book.
No, we're not like Angela's.
Yeah, if I wrote the book, they would cry.
Probably. I'm not that emotional. I'm not built out of that cloth. And Becky wrote a bunch of them. She's not so much either. Yeah. So yeah, but the kids like them. But they are concluded in level 5. The stories are level 6. They will actually be reading out of the 10-minute Bible twice on some weeks.
Okay.
Once or twice a week, they'll be reading out of the 10-minute Bible book.
Gotcha.
And so that's a pretty big change. So if you've already done the grammar writing, it would probably be a duplication to do language lesson 6. I'm not going to have my son who's already done it do level 6.
He'd go into
I'm actually going to have him go back and do level 5, and then we'll go from 5 into writing strands.
Okay.
That's my personal plan. So everybody can do what best meets their need. But there is going to be so much duplication in the actual lessons that
Yeah. Okay.
The spelling will be all different, but a lot of the main lessons will be different. And of course, so I'll be adding picture study. I'll be adding all the elements that everybody loves in language lessons, and the format of it will remain. There's going to be the poem study. There's going to be we're in Proverbs, so there'll be Proverbs study. There's Proverbs study. We did Psalms up to level 4, and now we're at 5, switches over to Proverbs. So there'll still be all of that in there.
Okay. Good. We're good?
I think we're good.
All right. Hey, guys, God bless you. This week, July 4th falls on Thursday, so there won't be a teaching tips, but we will resume the following week. All right. Well, God bless you all, and we look forward to connecting with you again in the future. Thanks.